Hey guys, RC here. Interesting Saturday going on. It's a busy time of the year for sports. Premier League just kicked off last weekend. Championship League has been going on for a couple of weeks. And as you can see from the screenshot here, Leeds United. I've made no secret since I started doing football manager videos that I am a Leeds United fan. And I actually just wanted to kind of muse about a couple of things today, and I had some questions, and I was interested to hear some points of view from some of you guys to see what you thought. We had the World Cup this summer, and then, as I said, Premier has kicked off last week. Championship kicked off a couple of weeks ago. And, so I've been let me kind of go back. So I've been a Leeds United fan since around 1978, 79, somewhere right around there. Um, I was living in Idaho on an Air Force base with about 2,000 people in the middle of a desert, and there was no pro teams out there, no colleges. We were about an hour and a half away from Boise, which is the capital of Idaho. Not a very populous state in the United States. And came across another kid my age living on the base, and his dad had previously been stationed in England, and he was a huge soccer fan, football fan, and I was as well. I had grown up playing soccer, and by that time, if you've paid any attention to my past, I had the opportunity to we lived in Las Vegas. I saw the Las Vegas Quicksilvers play one year there, and they were in the North American Soccer League, the old NASL. Had a chance to see Eusebio played for them that year. Pele came in with the Cosmos, Giorgio Chinaglia. I had the opportunity to meet Pele, so very big into the sport. And so I met this guy in Idaho. He was my age, and there was a tabletop game called Subbuteo. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of it, but basically it used a pretty large felt pitch, and you had these little die cast figurines that you flicked with your finger, and you hit a ball, and you played the game with these flickable figurines. But and I'm trying to remember, I think he was a Sheffield United fan. So his dad had been stationed with the U.S. military in Europe, in England, I think. And so he, growing up, at that time we were about 11, 12 years old, and he had become a Sheffield United fan. And I did not have any knowledge of European football. You got to remember, back in the late 70s, there was no internet, no cell phones. We still had, the phones that hung on the wall that with the little, anyway. So, there was little to no knowledge of, you know, outside, unless it was part of the national news that came out in the newspapers, because this even predated ESPN and stuff. So I just asked him. I said, "Well, who is their rival? Who did you hate?" And he said, "Leeds United." I said, "That's my team." And that's what got me started, honestly. And so I started following Leeds. Now, again, keeping up with European football from the United States through the late 70s and 80s and even the 90s was not the easiest thing. So I will admit, while I was a Leeds fan, I claim to be a Leeds fan, I never got to see a Leeds match until last season. So I started, because in the championship, even though soccer has gained in popularity here stateside, the only thing you can watch on TV is the Premier League. And being that I was a Leeds fan and they were in the championship, I didn't watch any of the Premier League clubs. So it was last year before ESPN got the rights to championship football. And I was able to start watching Leeds on ESPN 3 on streaming. And, then I also found several Leeds United groups on Facebook, and there are several groups that do live streams of games. So if they're not on ESPN, I'm able to, like right now, they're not on ESPN this week. So I've actually got the live stream against Rotherham going on right now, and I'm kind of watching that while I'm talking. But anyway, so we had the World Cup and stuff. So here's the crux of my question. So I about 10 years ago, and actually no, it was about 12 years ago. I ended up down in Puerto Rico for about a year and a half on a job assignment, and there were people from my company from all over the world that were there, and one of the guys was from England, and I couldn't tell you what team he rooted for, couldn't tell you who he was a fan of, I don't remember, but he was passionate, like most European fans are, about their clubs. And Champions League was going on at that time, and I distinctly remember he found out that I liked football as well, and so we ended up having a friendship based around the sport, and we would go to pubs in San Juan, and then later in Spain when we worked another assignment there, and we would watch whatever matches were on TV. And I distinctly remember Champions League being on. And I've liked watching that, on occasion. It's just hard, you have to kind of go look for it. Like here for American football, at 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock Central Time, there's a game on TV. And Monday night, there's a game on TV. And then years ago, they started Sunday night. So, there's a set time. With soccer, with football here, there's no set time, right? It's, oh, they were on TV this morning. Well, at 6 o'clock while I was sleeping, So anyway, I actually started setting last week. I watched my very first Premier League match, and I watched the Liverpool match. And I watched the Arsenal match against Man City, and not a fan. I'm not a fan of any of those clubs. I just was wanting to watch for the enjoyment of the game. So here's the first question: if you're a fan of a club, no matter who it is, no matter what level it's at, is it acceptable to watch other matches of clubs that you don't have a rooting interest for? And again, these are serious questions because I don't know the answers. And again, probably from the perspective of an American, it would be completely different from possibly somebody in Europe. And the only thing I can compare it to is the National Football League, American football, where I am a fan of two clubs, two teams, and I do watch other teams, and I watch for the enjoyment of the game. I watch and enjoy watching certain players, and so for comparison, like today, I'm looking forward to watching the Juventus game. ESPN is going to be streaming Ronaldo's first match with Juventus. And I'm interested to watch that because I do like Cristiano Ronaldo as a player. Now, I don't know him personally. That would be great. But if you're watching this, Cristiano, give me a call sometime. We could just hang out. But, so, I'm looking forward to watch him play. And I just enjoy the, as they, in Brazil, the beautiful game, as Pele called it, the beautiful game. And so, is it acceptable to watch other clubs? And then that kind of got me thinking. I started looking up some stuff because, as I mentioned earlier, the World Cup was this year. And one of the guys, and I can't remember his name, and I'm not going to turn off the Leeds match that I'm streaming. He was, crap. Yeah, I am. I'm going to do it real quick so I can give you the guy's name. Shit. Come on. No, I closed the damn page. Shit. All right, well, hold on. Let me get back to the match. I gotta go watch the match. All right, there we go. All right, I'll pull it up here. Leicester City. Oh, they got an own goal from Matt Doherty. Interesting. I want to see their main page. Here we go. And there's got to be, there we go, first team. All right, Kasper Schmeichel. Schmeichel, that's it. Kasper Schmeichel. The reason he jumped out is from the World Cup match. And, when they, was it the quarterfinals or the semifinals when they went to the shootout, the penalty shootout, he just got my attention as a keeper, and he, I was just overwhelmed by his ability. And, so he jumped out as a player that I said, oh, I kind of like him. And, that first impression type thing, And I had seen him with the Denmark team, a couple of matches in the World Cup, but it was that penalty shootout that I went, wow, I really like him as a keeper. So I didn't even know who he played for. So actually, when I was looking at him and I said, oh, he plays for Leicester. And I remember Leicester had come out of nowhere and had won the Premier League, what was it, 2 years ago. So I said, oh, I'd like to watch him play. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Leicester's going to be on the telly very much. Oh, I used an English term. On the television very much. Sorry about that. Too much Football Manager YouTube that I've been watching. But, so that was kind of leading into my next question. So, like, if I like Kasper Schmeichel, is it okay for me to then watch Leicester as a Leeds fan and possibly even root for Leicester along those lines? Or another example would be Real Madrid. Now, granted, they're a top-level team. Leicester's in the Premier, but Modric, the midfielder from Croatia, really, really impressed by him in the World Cup. And now I know now that he plays for Real Madrid. And, would it be acceptable to watch Real Madrid matches or Cristiano Ronaldo with Juventus and watch their matches and possibly root for their teams and, maybe become a fan, although, my loyalties would always lie with Leeds first. And if Leeds ever got to the point where they were in the Premier again, please God, let that happen. Would that be acceptable? Then you'd have that Leeds Leicester thing, but then I could say, well, while I do like Leicester because of Schmeichel or whatever, and start developing a fondness for their club, possibly over time, Leeds would always be the priority. And then if they ever got into Europa or Champions League and were playing some of these other big clubs that I would be watching, Leeds would always be first. I never turned my back on my primary club, but so, is that acceptable? How do you guys deal with that? Do you just not watch any other clubs? Do you watch it for the enjoyment of the sport? What do do you like players on other teams? How do you treat players that have left your club, that have gotten sold? Does it matter whether that player has asked to leave or if somebody's just come in and made an offer that was too good for your club to pass up and they just take the money? There's all kind of questions and all kind of, I understand there's all kind of things that can change the way you evaluate a situation. But interested in some feedback from you guys on how that works when it crosses club lines, when it crosses league lines, when it crosses nationality lines. Um, and another thing is like you guys in England, if you're a fan of one club and you hate, Man United or Man City or Arsenal or whoever, what do you do with your national team? Because I know most of us are pretty passionate, patriots of our home nation, so we don't really have that. I don't think that as Americans we aren't really divided that point. But in England, for example, and I'm just using England because of I know a little bit more about them than any Spain or Germany or anywhere else. The depth of loyalty to the club goes so deep. Like watching Leeds, there is a fringe group of Leeds fans that are just off the reservation, that they, if it's not Leeds, it doesn't exist. And, like Chris Wood, top scorer, what was it, 2 years ago, and he was good enough to play in the Premier, evidently. And he got sold. And to this group of Leeds fans, this fringe group, he doesn't exist anymore, and they hate him with a passion. He is, the worst person on the face of the earth to them. And that's kind of mind-boggling, because, if you're playing second division football and you're good enough to play at the Premier League level, and that entails prestige, money, fame, all that stuff, don't you owe it to yourself to play at the top level of the game if you're good enough? And does that mean you hate the club that you're leaving, or does it just mean that you're looking out for your own best interest? And wouldn't you or I do the same with our job if that opportunity arose? So anyway, just had some random thoughts bouncing around my head this morning. So figured I'd toss it out there on the channel and let some of you football manager guys maybe take a look at it and give me your thoughts. And again, I'm just trying to, kind of wrap my head because I don't know what's acceptable, what's not. I mean, granted, at the end of the day, I can do whatever I want, and I can watch Leicester and pull for Casper Schmeichel or, whoever I want. Probably the only thing I can't do as a Leeds fan is pull for Man United. But it doesn't mean that over the years that I haven't been fascinated with, Wayne Rooney on occasion, or some of the players that have played. I think David Beckham played for them too, right? Now, when Beckham was at his peak as a player, that was before I was actually watching any games on TV or streaming, and so I just knew him as a what was considered to be a world class soccer player, and then married to one of the Spice Girls. So that's what I knew about him. Even though I wasn't a Spice Girl fan, I was not into that. That was well after my heyday as my music generation. But anyway, I don't want this to be too long, and we're coming up on 19 minutes. So I just thought I'd toss out some thoughts and some questions, and then hopefully get some good feedback from you guys, and maybe just spark a discussion. So anyway, Leeds 0-0 with Rotherham in the 45th minute. Right now, coming up on halftime. So the boys are looking okay. I really like Bielsa's attacking style offense. I like the way they've been playing. They certainly have been a threat on goal every match. Oh, there's a shot knocked over by the Rotherham keeper. But anyway, you guys have a very good Saturday. I look forward to any conversation that this starts that we can talk about. And I will be probably playing some more Football Manager here in the second half and getting another couple of episodes recorded for Journeyman, and then also playing my personal lead save. So you guys have a good one. Thanks for taking time to watch the video, and I hope you take a minute to drop me some thoughts on what you guys think about the topics raised here in the video. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.